Hello children, welcome to e-learning class. Myself Kusum Mishra and today we are going to study chapter 3 The Man in the Train. Children, whenever we read about a crime in the newspaper or watch a suspense movie, our thoughts and emotions get disturbed. Let's see in this story how unfounded fear and suspicion can prey upon a person's mind. Mrs. Blake was going to board a train to Eastbourne to visit some of her cousins. Her husband, John, had come to see her off. At the platform, she saw a tall, dark man waiting for the train. Suddenly, she felt that she had seen him earlier. When the train was about to start, the tall man entered the train and sat in the seat opposite hers. When the train started, Mrs. Blake began to feel insecure because she thought that the man was a killer. Earlier in the morning, she had seen his picture in the newspaper in connection with a murder case. Now Mrs. Blake felt helpless because the train was moving at a speed of 60 miles per hour and there was no other passenger in the compartment except the two. Besides, the train would stop only after an hour. Mrs. Blake was frightened, very frightened. What ought she to do? If she pulled the chain, the man can kill her while she gets up to pull the chain. On the other hand, she will be made fool if the man is not a criminal. Her husband had asked her if she wanted a newspaper of that morning, and she had said no. If she had not said no, she could easily find out the truth about the man. Mrs. Blake felt more pathetic. The man was reading a newspaper. Mrs. Blake observed him, tall and dark. Her suspicion grew stronger. It is the same man who killed a woman with a knife, no doubt. Suddenly, she sat up. The man's hand was moving towards the pocket of his coat. Slowly, he put his hand into his pocket and took out a knife. Carefully, he opened the blade, a long blade, pointed at the end. Mrs. Blake wanted to jump to her feet and scream for help, but she could not move. Only her eyes watched the open knife in the man's hand. Now his hand began to move towards his pocket. This was too much for Mrs. Blake. She guessed what the man was going to do: gag her with the handkerchief and slash her with the pointed knife. But instead, he took out an apple and began to peel it slowly, putting the peel carefully into a paper bag that he also took out from his pocket. Mrs. Blake watched the man eating the apple. So she breathed with relief. But soon her fears came back when she noticed that the man had not put the knife back. She thought that the man was going to kill her after eating. But nothing like that happened. The man threw the peels out through the window and closed the window again. Mrs. Blake was feeling much better now. Outside, she saw houses and buildings. Yes, the journey was coming to an end, and she will be free from fear of man. The train halted at Eastbourne. Mrs. Blake was feeling like a dumb in having mistaken a gentleman for a thief, when all her doubts and fears returned once again. Outside at the platform were a few policemen ready to arrest the killer. The train stopped and the man walked out. Now she saw when the man and policeman meant. The policeman saluted the man very politely, addressing him Inspector. What a terrible misunderstanding! The man was an inspector, not a killer. As the inspector and the policeman walked away, Mrs. Blake picked up the newspaper, which the man had left on the seat. There, on the front page, were two pictures, one of a small man with thin lips, and another of the man she had been travelling with. Under the first were this caption Jack the Killer, and under the other, Inspector Taunton of Scotland Yard, in charge of the case. Mrs. Blake smiled as she got into a taxi and thinking about husband's repeated advice to read the newspaper carefully so she could have enjoyed a wonderful journey with the nation's most wanted detective. So, children, I hope you enjoyed the story. Thank you.